Hey art nerds! Today we are unboxing and swatching the Ohuhu brush markers, and I want to give a big shout out, a huge thanks to all of you who sent me a tip via coffee that allowed me to purchase this set of Ohuhu markers. So this was purchased out of pocket with support from viewers like you guys. I bought the 48-piece set, which is enough to kind of give me a good idea as to whether or not these markers are comparable to other brush markers on the market. I intend on comparing them against my experience with markers like Milo markers, as well as the Master's Touch markers and the Artist Loft markers, as well as old standbys like Copic and Blick Studio brush markers, to let you guys know if these are really as big a value as everybody says. I've done dozens of alcohol marker reviews here on this channel and over at natosoup.blogspot.com. So when I review markers, I basically compare the markers against the sum of all my marker experience to give you guys as much info as possible. We're going to be doing the unboxing part live on camera, and then we're going to be working on the rest of the video, including the swatches in time-lapse. So I purchased this 48-piece set of Ohuhu markers off of Amazon. I paid about $35.99. I'll have a link down in the description below if you guys are interested in ordering them yourself. Do want to let you guys know that when we use Amazon affiliate links here on this channel, I do see a small bounty, and that bounty is used to help support the work that I'm doing on here. If you want to also support the work, you can send tips via coffee. That usually goes towards the next product review, or you can support me every month on Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup. This box arrived the very next day because I live in Nashville and we do have an Amazon distribution center, and I already got rid of the Amazon box, but you guys have seen Amazon boxes. It was a cardboard Amazon box, and this is basically all that was in it. Inside was this Ohuhu bag that was plastic wrapped, and just like with my Arrtx review, I am going to ding Ohuhu for wrapping something that's already wrapped. This came in a box and then it has a wrapper. I know some of you guys don't like it when I point this out, but this is waste that's going to end up in the ocean. It's going to end up killing animals. It's going to end up sitting in a landfill doing nothing for thousands of years, and it is a waste of petrochemical plastic. I point this out hoping that companies will stop including this and we don't have to throw it away. Our markers do come in a nice zippered nylon bag, very similar to some of the touch markers that have been on the market. The bag has a handle. It has Ohuhu screened on the front, and it zippers across. And these look like they have the same body as the striker markers, very similar to the Artist Loft markers, and just very similar in general to a lot of other markers I reviewed here on this channel. I'm going to link those relevant reviews down in the description if you guys want to check out more of them. Very, very smooth plastic body. The screening is in silver. It says Ohuhu Art Marker. It says broad tip, so that's the chisel tip, and then the brush tip, and it does have a small gray collar. And the markers themselves have, let me just show you guys. So this is to prevent the cap from rolling off your desk so long as both ends are capped. The caps post, and it posts very securely. Don't seem to be too difficult to remove. And these brush tips look like they're fiber tips, not foam rubber. So one of the reasons I decided to review the Ohuhu markers is I got a lot of requests for these markers on the Paintbox, my Discord server. I crowdfunded this review on Ko-fi, allowing people to tip to help purchase these markers. So I want to thank those people for doing that. So this review is not sponsored other than through my viewers, and I did not receive any compensation for this review. So all opinions are my own. I'm also going to point out that I don't like fiber brush markers. I don't like them. I prefer the foam rubber markers, and I say that in a lot of my unbox and swatch videos. Ohuhu also has the bullet tip markers. In fact, the largest set, I believe it's 200, but you guys can find more info in the description below. Those are all bullet nib, but since I prefer brush tip markers, I decided to go with something I knew I would prefer so we could make this a fairer review. Alright, so let's go ahead and compare these to some of our other alcohol markers. But before we do that, I do want to talk about the packaging just a little bit. This is a pretty standard, it looks like it is lined, and it also looks like it's waterproof. zipper bag. A lot of different marker companies include their markers in these. We do get a blender marker. We also get kind of a variety of colors, and inside we get an Ohuhu special offer, 10% off everything. How to claim. Share your user experience online. Oh, hey, that's what I'm doing here. Go to ohuhu.com, click Lucky Coupon to submit the link. Find your exclusive coupon in your inbox in 24 hours. So 10% off if you review the product. And then there's a short FAQ on the back. I got a dried out pin upon arrival. A free replacement is on its way to you. The pin dried out after multiple uses. A free replacement is on its way to you. And please ensure the caps are secure when not in use. The pin is bleeding when I open it. This doesn't affect using. Please remove the ink. Also, a 50% off discount or a free replacement is on its way. I got duplicates of colors. A free replacement is on its way to you. The ink bleeds through the paper. Y'all, come on, y'all. This is a common problem with alcohol markers. You can put an extra sheet of blank paper between your coloring sheets. If this is unacceptable, a full refund will be on its way. I will say though, y'all, alcohol markers, that happens a lot. It's common knowledge. I'm impressed that Ohuhu is willing to back that up to support users who may have purchased these and not realize that. But I will say I can't recommend buying any art supply you've never used before without doing your research first. So we get a pretty wide range of colors. We'll explore that a little bit more in our swatching section. But for now, let's compare some markers. Okay, art nerds, we have quite a prestigious lineup of alcohol markers. We have the Ohuhu Art marker, we have the Blick Studio, we have the Master's Touch, we have a Winsor Newton brush marker, we have a Prismacolor Premier, we have two Artist Loft markers, we have a Copic Chow, and we have a Copic Sketch. I have rehomed my Milo Art and my Milo Pro markers. I donated those sets to the St. Charles Parish Public Library System so that other people can enjoy those markers, and I intend on donating the Ohuhu markers when I'm done using them as well, unless I just absolutely fall in love with them and think they're the best thing ever. I kind of feel like these are not the markers that the Frugal Crafter has been really talking up. I feel like I remember Lindsay mentioning that they have a foam rubber tip, and that's what I thought I was getting when I ordered these. It may just be the skin tone set that has them, or maybe there's some new set that I somehow missed on Amazon. So let me know in the comments below if I just got the wrong Ohuhu set, and I'll try to get that straightened out. But I don't have the Milo Art and the Milo Pro markers to compare, but I can tell you guys that the Milo Art markers also have a fiber tip and the Milo Pro have a foam rubber tip. I prefer the Milo Pro to the Milo Art markers, and you guys will be able to find those reviews down in the description below. But body-wise and handling-wise, the Master's Touch, these are the ones sold through Hobby Lobby. These are very similar to the Milo Art markers, which is why I didn't feel bad about rehoming the Milo markers. So we have our lineup. Let's do a little bit of uncapping, and I'm going to line everything up so that it is brush tip. So these, they have rounded bodies, so they're going to be very prone to rolling, and that's the Ohuhu. The only body screening on it is the tip size, the brand name, the art markers, and then the brush. Maybe there's Ohuhu Pro markers that I somehow missed. Now I'll have to go back and check when I'm doing the time-lapse part of this video. On the top, we have the color family, GY number 4, so this would be like yellow-green or green-yellow, and then number 4. Next, we have a Blick Studio brush markers. These are sold through Dick Blick. They're their store brand markers. I love these things. These are usually my #1 recommended Copic dupe. They have foam rubber brush nibs. They are refillable. The nibs are replaceable. And they have a color number and then a color name. And I use these interchangeably with my Copics. Then we have the Master's Touch markers. They have ribbing on the cap, just like the ColorIt markers, the Milo Art markers, and the Milo Pro markers. A little bit difficult to remove the caps on all of those mentioned markers. They have a foam rubber nib. They have a color number and they have a color name. And already my room is starting to get that strong alcohol marker smell. See, this is why I do this, so you guys don't have to. Next, we have the brush marker. These used to be released by Letraset. Winsor Newton owns them now. I reviewed these a really long time over on the blog. I would definitely be interested in revisiting these, especially because they've introduced some new colors and it seems like they have consulted anime and manga style artists to see what kind of color selections we would like. So I would definitely be open to revisiting those and seeing if my opinion has changed, if they handle any better, if I can recommend them anymore. I didn't like them in my first review, but you know, I'm open to, it's been about 5 years, I'm definitely open to going back to them. And if I remember correctly, these are foam rubber nibs. They are not refillable and you cannot replace the nibs. Same goes for the Prismacolor Premier foam rubber nibs. I like these. I use them interchangeably with my Copics. Not everybody likes Prismacolor markers, but I like that they add a lot to the color selection that, you know, Copic doesn't necessarily do. So I use these and the Blick Studio pretty interchangeably with my Copics. Next we have the two Artist Loft markers. This is the older one. This one has a fiber tip. It's very prone to fraying. It's very prone to falling apart. I'm running out of room, so I'm just going to start stacking them over here, and I apologize for that. So older body, and then we have one of the newer ones, and these have foam rubber nibs in them, so they're a little bit more sturdy. Sorry, sometimes it's hard to get these open on camera and I don't want to hit my camera. So these have foam rubber nibs. To my knowledge, they are not refillable. I've not seen refills for them. And then finally we have our baseline, a Copic Chow, and we have a Copic Sketch. The Copic Chow used to be not refillable, but that was several years ago. Copic now offers them as a refillable option. They're much smaller than the Copic Sketch. They don't hold as much ink, but you can replace the nibs, and I really do recommend these for alcohol marker artists who are looking to get into alcohol markers. They probably will end up getting into Copics because they're a little bit more affordable than Copic markers, or Copic Sketch markers. And then we have the Copic Sketch foam rubber tip, foam rubber nib. Replaceable nibs on both ends, refillable, and you can find the refills online. So we have quite a little smorgasbord of markers to look at. So we have all of the markers with foam rubber nibs going from here all the way to the Artist Loft. That's generally my preference. They're going to have more snap. They're going to have more flexibility. They're going to stand up and last a lot longer than the markers with the fiber brushes. Those tend to get eaten up. Those tend to get beaten up really quickly. They're just not my preference. They tend to get mushy. And for those of you who are familiar with the kind of art I do here on this channel, maybe you guys can kind of understand why that's my preference. So I generally don't keep fiber tipped alcohol markers in my studio. I usually donate them or give them to someone or rehome them in some way so that they can continue to be useful to somebody else, but do not contribute to the art supply hoard problem that I seem to have. So I only have a couple of examples for you guys here, the older Artist Loft and then the Ohuhu art marker. And again, there might be an Ohuhu Pro marker that I missed. I'm going to look into that and get back to you guys. So we have the Blick Studio brush, the Master's Touch, the Winsor Newton brush marker, the Prismacolor Premier, the Copic Chow, the Copic Sketch, the Artist Loft New, the Artist Loft Old, and then the Ohuhu art marker. Refillable, not refillable, not refillable, not refillable, 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 not refillable, not refillable. Not sure about the Ohuhu. You guys will have to wait until the swatching part of this video to find out if these are refillable. And I know having my markers uncapped for long periods of time makes some of you guys really uncomfortable. And that's why I recommend you guys watch reviews rather than do it yourself, because that's a risk I'm willing to take, and I'm willing to refill or replace or bring back to life my markers. And I know that not everyone is willing to do that. So, ooh, I may have this one backwards. Yup. Not sure how that happened. There we go. The Winsor Newton brush marker is the only marker that has a special end designed. It's like a bullet end designed to protect their brush marker. And then the color chip is on the back. And the Copic Chow is the only marker that has no color chip. I mean, the caps are representative of the color inside. And then on the body, you have the color screened on it. Most of these markers are fairly easy to cap and uncap. That's something I always comment on because I have viewers who have arthritis problems like myself. They may have dexterity problems, so this becomes an accessibility issue that is well worth discussing. So that is another point I always bring up. And then finally, our Ohuhu marker. So that was our lineup. Next, I'm going to sort these markers out into individual color families, and we're going to be doing our swatching in Alcohol Marker Test Book number 4, a Strathmore Mixed Media book. This is the 300 series, and this is kind of my standard alcohol marker testing book. I'm on my 4th one, so obviously. So these would be the Milo markers. So these are the art markers. And this is the Milo Art field test. This is the Milo Pro markers and the Art and Pro comparison. This is the Pro field test. This is the Shuttle Art, no, the ColorIt markers, I believe. No, I think these are the Shuttle Art because the ColorIt didn't have this many grays. This is the Shuttle Art field test, and a huge thanks to Art Nerd Allie again for letting me borrow your Shuttle Art markers so I can review them. And then these are the ColorIt markers. And this is the ColorIt field test. So you guys will find links to all of those down in the description below. So let's get sorting and swatching. I really like the color gamut for these markers. It includes a colorless splendor, and there are not too many grays in this collection. I'm kind of wondering if maybe the Ohuhu markers share a manufacturer with some of the other marker brands like the Milo markers or, I don't know, the Chisel Art markers. I noticed this, I wonder this because it includes Potato Brown, and Potato Brown is kind of one of those color names that you don't see too often generally. Like Shinhan doesn't have a Potato Brown and Copic doesn't have a Potato Brown, but Shuttle Art and Milo Art have Potato Browns. So I don't know, kind of makes me wonder. Maybe it's just a common ink or a common ink name where these were manufactured. The caps remove easily, almost too easily. I'd be a little bit concerned about these drying out. The chisel tip is really bleedy, very similar to the Milo Art and the Milo Pro markers. I wonder if they're using the same solution. And like I said earlier, I like the color gamut. These also have a really unusual smell for alcohol markers, a little bit sweeter than I'm used to, and I highly recommend that you work in a well-ventilated area when you're using these. I have to say I really like the color gamut in the Ohuhu markers compared to some of the other very similar markers, like the color gamut for like the Milo markers, for example. In this 48-piece set, we get a lot of really fun, bright colors. We also get a few skin tones. And while this isn't necessarily like the most usable set, especially if you want to do realistic art, this is a really good color choice for people who like bright art, really cute kawaii art, or they're inspired by anime and manga. So the color gamut here seems very well chosen for what I believe to be is the target audience for the Ohuhu markers. So next, we're going to do some compatibility testing and we're going to do some blend testing. Before we dive into that though, I do want to spend a little bit of time doing a quick comparison since we've already swatched and unboxed everything. And I want to show you guys why I'm not super hot on fiber tip markers and why I prefer foam brush markers. So I did do a little bit of research. I couldn't find an Ohuhu Pro set. Maybe I've just misremembered where I heard that these had a foam rubber nib, but if you guys could let me know in the comments below, maybe you've seen them, maybe they were pulled, kind of like the Mozart Komorebi set's been pulled, that would tell me a lot. What I can't understand is these markers are very, very popular. They're one of the markers that I get the most requests to review, and I kind of held off until I thought they would have a foam marker or a foam rubber nib on the marker. And so I'm a little bit disappointed, not gonna lie, that this brush is compressed fiber, and it might be kind of difficult for you guys to see. So that is compressed fiber, and then I have here the Master's Touch marker, which I would say is very comparable in probably build quality and price, except for the foam rubber nib. And then we have the Blick Studio brush marker, which this one needs to be refilled. It's seen better days, but it'll give you guys kind of a good idea of what I'm talking about, hopefully. So at the top we have the Ohuhu fiber tip brush. We have next the Master's Touch foam rubber brush. And then finally we have the Blick Studio foam rubber brush. So we're going to start with the Ohuhu, and I've tried to get you guys as close a close-up as I can get. Okay, so it does have some flex, it does have some give. When I bear down on it, you guys can see it gets kind of juicy. Perhaps this is not the worst foam rubber nib. Now I want to, I'm not foam rubber, I'm so sorry. Fiber, compressed fiber. It behaves a lot better than some of the other fiber nibs I've used. In fact, it's almost comparable. I cannot go out on a limb and say it's comparable to a foam rubber nib just yet. That's something that I'll be able to determine in my field test video. But so far, I'm actually impressed by how well it handles. So I want to show you guys a bad one so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this is the old Artist Loft body. And this is one of the foam rubber nibs. And this one, let me move that so you guys can get better lighting. This one's gotten mushy, it doesn't have nearly as much flex, and the tip, I don't know if you guys can see, the tip has started to fray, which makes getting into really fine areas very difficult. So just to kind of refresh your palette, we're going to go back to the Ohuhu marker. Good spraying, doesn't seem to be getting torn up. I don't see any wear and tear. on the brush tip just yet, able to get really large areas of fill, able to get smaller details. That's what I want to see from a brush tip marker. Now we have the Master's Touch. This is a little more rubbery, a little more gummy than the Ohuhu marker. The Ohuhu marker had better spring, but we're still able to get large fills and then really fine details. Maybe the Ohuhu isn't a fiber nib at all and it just looks a lot like one. And then finally we have the Blick Studio brush marker. This one needs to have a nib replacement, a nibectomy. But even so, when you press down, you get lots of juice in the tip. It has good flex. You can get really fine lines. You can get much thicker lines. And this is really useful when I'm rendering hair and when I'm filling in large areas of color. All right, so next we're going to do the compatibility testing. And this is where I compare the Ohuhu ink and see how reactive it is. So we're going to get a color that's going to react a lot. And we're going to compare that against, if it'll stay, the Ohuhu blender itself. And I'm going to grab some blenders from other brands. So since I'm at home in my own studio today, you guys are in luck. We have a boatload of other blenders that we can use to test reactivity and compatibility. And what we're looking for is we're looking for color shift. We want the blender to push our color back and make it lighter. So we're going to be using the Ohuhu blender, a Blick Studio Brush blender, a Copic blender, a Shinhan Twin Touch blender, a Prismacolor blender, a Currycolor blender, and then the Artist Loft blender. And we're also going to be using just some regular isopropyl alcohol. I'm not sure if it's visible on camera, but I can see some reactivity with all of the brands tested. Some are going to be more reactive than others, but it seems like the Ohuhu would play nicely with your existing marker collection, or you could start with the Ohuhu and then start augmenting open stock from Copic or from Prismacolor or from Blick if you so wished. Okay, so next we're going to be doing a couple of different blending tests. So for our first blending test, we're going to do a pretty simple ball. And what this tells me is how well the colors layer, how well they react to one another, and just generally how well they mix on a thicker, thirstier paper like the Strathmore 300 series mixed media paper. Now, I want to let you guys know that as a marker artist, I prefer thirstier papers. I don't like coated papers with my markers. That is my own preference. So if you like coated papers, some of what I say may not be applicable to you, or other brands may be more useful for you. So this is always a your mileage may vary situation based on my own preferences and my own experiences. So the colors we're going to be using for our first blend test, where we make a sphere, is R10, RP1, P1, P2, and P5. I wanted to kind of run a gamut and get several different colors. I have to hand it to these Ohuhu markers. They definitely kind of hold up to everything I've been throwing at them. At first I thought they didn't really have a brush tip, as you guys remember, and I was kind of disappointed about that because that's kind of a deal breaker for me. But it seems like the fiber or the brush tip it has really is a foam brush tip, and it's just cut differently. So far, I would say these are probably worth the hype, which is surprising for me because usually when people go kind of bananas about cheap art supplies, they're not really as good as everybody says. So I'm going to do a different kind of blend test now, where I'm just going to kind of blend different colors into one another. And we'll see how well that works. I'm just kind of going to work my way from purple and see how far I feel like going. This is a 48 color set, so I don't feel like doing the entire gamut. They're quite generous with their colors. And I did say that I paid $35.99 for these on Amazon. They're up now to $39 something. So, you know, as always, your mileage may vary. It may be less, it may be more than the price that I quote you guys. Generally, YouTube is making a really big deal about how these are like great markers for less than $1 or great markers for 50 cents each, something like that. So, I guess people were probably catching them when they were closer to $30 than $35. Or they may be talking about the bullet nibs, which are significantly cheaper than the brush nibs. Now, again, my preference is brush nibs. The brush nibs, I think they top out at like a 78 piece set. You guys will find all the accurate information down in the description below. I'm just going off of my memory. And the bullet tips have like a 200 piece set. So if you're looking for more colors, then the bullet tips are going to be more what you're looking for. They blend okay. They kind of sacrifice giving us enough pastels, which I usually use as like stepping stones, intermediate colors. When I'm trying to build up darker colors, I'll use pastels. So you guys saw I kind of started with a hot pink and I worked it back with the colorless blender. So I don't think they included really enough pastels, but considering they had a really nice color gamut, they tried to hit all of the colors people are going to want to see in a collection like this. They even included a few gray tones, but it's not overly gray tone heavy. And then they also have a standalone skin tone set as well to kind of augment this. So some things I'd like to see from the Ohuhu set is I'd like to see refillability, where you can just drip the ink back onto these. You can do that with Copics as well, so you don't need to be able to take out the nibs to do that. I'd like to see open stock colors, so you can replace colors that have run out. I'd like to see maybe some smaller sets so you can augment that, but that's also me thinking about these like these would be in Ohuhu's flagship product, rather than they sell a lot of products and this is just one of them. So in the field test video, what we're going to do is we're going to make an illustration from start to finish. I'm going to walk you through the tips I know for getting the most out of markers with that, and for getting the most out of your color collection with that. And it tends to be about 30 minutes in length, so that's why I don't do my unboxing swatches and my, sorry, just making sure I'm grabbing the right colors. And my field tests in the same video is I like to treat the field test like it's more of a tutorial. So far, I think these markers hold up really well. I haven't had any issues with fraying. They're very juicy, so they really do look, I don't know, maybe they really are foam, or a type of foam, or a type of rubber, and it's just not what I'm used to seeing. I've reviewed a lot of markers over the years. It's kind of hard to surprise me, but it does happen every now and then. And I love being proven wrong when something is better than I thought it would be. I love being taken by surprise. And I like being able to recommend things for people because I teach marker classes and I tend to teach younger students who are on a budget. Their parents want to buy them nice art supplies. They don't want to spend a whole lot of money. And it's really nice to be able to recommend things to their parents and know that the kids are going to enjoy using them. So I know sometimes I seem like I'm a bit of a curmudgeon, I just really hate wasting money, and I hate feeling like I got tricked into something. And I love when an art supply performs the way it's supposed to, or performs better than I expected. And I gotta give the Ohuhu markers credit. They are performing better than I expected. So yeah, I would definitely say they're probably worth the hype. Are they as good? Do they replace the Blick Studio brush markers as my favorite inexpensive Copic dupe? No, I have a real soft spot for them, and they also are refillable and you can replace the nibs, so they have more longevity in my opinion than the Ohuhu markers. But there's things Ohuhu could do, and not complicated things really either, that would definitely replace the Blick Studio brush markers in my heart. Now, one of my other problems with these markers is just accessibility. You have to get them online. I haven't seen them in stores. If you guys have seen them in stores, let me know. But I have never seen them in stores, so you're stuck getting them online. You can't try them out in person. And for me, that is kind of a big deal. A lot of parents who aren't familiar with art supplies are very reluctant to buy something they've never tried or their kids have never tried. So that's my other big thing. And maybe Ohuhu could sponsor events, could go to cons like anime cons and have the Ohuhu booth, and maybe they do, and I just don't know about it. Again, let me know in the comments below. And you know, allow people to play with these and get their hands on these and experience these, so that they're going to want to use them. Or they could donate sets to schools, and these can be the markers that kids use in school, and then like in art classes, and then when they have money to buy markers, these are the markers they're going to buy. They are definitely getting a lot of market reach by sending these out to different art supply reviewers, different artists on YouTube. Again, I am not one of those people. Again, this review was sponsored by tips through my coffee at ko-fi.com/natosoup, and I plan on sponsoring a lot of my art supply reviews this way in the future. So, my pros for these are the brush is way better than I thought. They're juicy. They've got a good color selection. They're very affordable. The markers are comfortable in the hand. They're not overly difficult to cap and uncap. They come off pretty easy. My concern with that is maybe too easy, so maybe they're not getting as good a seal, so they may dry up on you quick, but it seems like Ohuhu has a good policy about that. I've not taken them up on it, but this is weird. Let me see if I can find potato brown. There's potato brown. Okay, never mind. I just wasn't necessarily recognizing some of the colors like barium yellow. And I look more at the color numbers than I do at the color names. So YR2 is marigold, marigold. Oh yeah, that's something else I kind of wanted to point out, is these colors seem, like the color names and the color numbers seem very familiar. So actually I can do that on camera. I can do that for you guys right now. We're going to compare these to, I want to compare them to the Shuttle Art markers in particular. So with the Shuttle Art markers, I only do the numbers, I don't do the names. So we're going to have to, and these have a color number like red, brown, blue, green, green, right? So it's not 1 to 1, but the Shuttle Art had potato brown, and I feel like this was old red. I'm gonna have to ask my amazing art nerds over on the paint box to see, sorry, I know I keep hitting the camera, to see if they are noticing a lot of similarities. Because like the thing that really sticks me is like potato brown is a really common color name for some of these less expensive sets. So these are the Milo Art markers. This is their 48 color gamut, and these were sent to me by art nerd Tyra. Again, thank you so much, Tyra. And my huge beef with the Milo Art markers was that I didn't like the fiber tip, but their pro markers have the foam rubber tip that I prefer. But so much of the 48 color range is taken up by grayscale. And that's something I actually really like about the Ohuhu markers, is that only a little bit of the color range is taken up by grayscale. So it makes it a more usable set. They also seem to have a few more skin tones than the Milo Art markers. So I'm seeing some colors in common. When they change the names, that starts to mess with me, and this isn't 100% color accurate swatch, so I'd have to swatch them side by side. it wouldn't surprise me if all of these inexpensive markers on Amazon had the same manufacturer, and then it really just comes down to what markers handle the way you want your markers to handle, which ones do you prefer using, and which ones are at the price point you're comfortable with paying and that you like. So I like their color gamut. It kind of reminds me of the ColorIt brand marker color gamut, where there's a lot of really fun colors, more useful colors. There's a lot of blues and blue-greens, maybe not as many pinks as I personally would have liked, but I know with a 48 color range, it's difficult to get as many of those colors as you would like in the set. So anyway, this has been a really fun review for me. I'm really happy that I was kind of wrong about these markers, and I look forward to the field test in a big way. So that about wraps up our Ohuhu marker unbox and swatch video. I want to say thank you again to those of you who sent me a tip via coffee that made this review possible. And we were only fundraising for the cost of the markers. It does not include the cost of my time, the cost of my experience, the cost of recording, or the cost of the field test. But I'm still really, really grateful for your generosity and your support in allowing me, helping me to make these kind of reviews financially feasible without making me dependent on companies for sending me PR, which, as we know, happens on occasion, but not really that often. I'd also like to thank you guys for watching it. I hope this review was helpful, useful, and informative. I know literally everyone else has already reviewed the Ohuhu brush markers. Again, I hadn't really planned on it, but I was requested to review these markers several times in the paint box, so I thought, well, maybe people just want my opinion on these particularly. So I'm kind of impressed by these. I feel like they're not as rubbery, they're not as grippy as the Milo Pro markers or the Master's Touch markers. They are nicer to handle than the Artist Loft markers, and I'll be able to give you guys more information in our field test video, which will be coming up really soon. If you guys want to support what I do in a long-term, meaningful way, you guys can join me on Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup. Your monthly pledges help me to regularly release content, helps me justify recording and editing tutorials and reviews and sharing them here on YouTube, and it is much appreciated. If you join me on the Art Nerd community over on Patreon, you're going to get early access to videos like this one. You're going to get early access to the field test for this video. You're also going to get early access, or I'm sorry, backer exclusive access to my class materials for watercolor classes, alcohol marker classes, and my comic making classes. So if you're interested in learning via the School of Internet, that is a great way to get access to great class materials. So I'm going to see you guys in the future with our field test. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye, guys! So I just caught this. GY5 is named Absinthe. I'm not super sure that is appropriate for markers aimed at a younger demographic. Ohuhu, that could be a good spring green. Just the thought.